I kind of look like a zombie. What do you think? Do you think I look like a zombie? Kind of. I don't know. So the one thing that I forgot to bring on this trip, is like a 2-week trip. I'm out in California. I'm in San Francisco right now. The one thing I forgot was my webcam. I remember to bring literally everything else. I'm very proud of that, but my webcam was the one thing. So I'm using my built-in webcam on my laptop right now. It's okay, but I almost had a little bit of a heart attack when I saw myself in it because whatever. I'm kind of gotten used to it now, but for you, it still might look like a zombie. So, all right. So, hi everybody. How you doing? It's been a while. I hope you enjoyed Law Week. Because guess what? We're doing it again. In fact, this entire channel's just going to become the Law Week channel. Every week, for every month, for every year, from now until long after One Piece is over. It's just going to be Law Week, Law Week, Law Week. Okay. I think it did pretty okay. It got the numbers that I was expecting it to get, but thanks to everybody for your support there. So, I actually ran out of videos. I was going to film one video on the way here, and then I forgot to, and then I was just like, okay, you know what? Let's just do this one today, because there is some stuff I want to talk about. There was a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I went to Anime Expo. I got to hang out with such famous YouTube stars as Daniel Rustage, and Too Spooky, and Briggs, and Noble, and Roger, and Professor Lando. I met him. I didn't even know who he was, but I met him, and he's a really cool dude, okay? So, yeah, I met all those people. It was great, and a lot of other people were there as well. So, funny thing is, I didn't get a chance to go to any of the panels. Me and Spooky tried to get into the Bleach Thousand-Year Blood War arc panel, and that's a story for maybe another day, but we could not get in, okay? We didn't get in, so I'm like, all right, I am going to plan on making a video about that when I get back. But I just checked on Twitter, and Viz released a basic little interview with Kubo about the final arc, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about the trailer, and let's talk about this little interview. I have a little notepad here, and we'll just go over everything that was addressed there, okay? So the first thing was the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer for the Thousand Year Blood War arc yet, the updated trailer that was airing at Anime Expo, I'll leave a link to it below, and it's pretty epic, okay? The animation, we have a few more scenes animated. The last trailer, we only really got to see like scenes from the first episode that were finished. Now we're getting to see a lot more scenes with the Quincy's invading the Soul Society, okay, and their first attack onto the Soul Society, okay? We have a few scenes with Yamamoto's fight with Yuha. We have scenes with the Stern Ritter going up against the Shinigami. I think we have a scene with like Kenpachi in there charging against Yuha. That was a really cool scene. We get to see kind of not all the Stern Ritter. We don't get to see like the elite guard, but we get to see like the majority of the Stern Ritter that show up in that first part of the story, and we get to see them in a full spread with Yuha in the center, and then we cut to the Shinigami all fighting against them. The animation and like just the coloring and everything and the design is going to be a little bit different from the original Bleach anime, and this was something that Kubo even brought up in the interview, so we'll get to that when we get to that. So it's a little bit different, but different's not necessarily bad, so I'm actually really looking forward to just like the fact that the Bleach anime is coming back, period, you know what I mean? So it's coming back. The animation's going to be a little bit different. I noted just the colors are just going to be more, not muted, but if you saw that trailer, they seem to be favoring a lot more of like purple, violet, bluish sort of colors, which makes sense for the Quincy's, but also it just kind of sets the vibe, that like when, like during the Soul Society arc, for example, when Ichigo and everybody invaded the Soul Society to go rescue Rukia, it was mostly happy and, the sun was shining and it was like just a normal afternoon in the Seirete, and this is like, the Quincy's are setting off giant reishi fire bombs like all over the damn Seirete, so it's going to be a little bit more intense this time around. So the idea that things are maybe bathed in a little bit more bluish or violet light kind of makes more sense and adds a little bit more dread to it, I think. What else in the trailer? We had some really cool soundtrack. There was like a soundtrack that we've seen or heard before in Bleach, but there was just like some like really cool choir music layered over it. Okay, so basically doing the thing that I thought they were going to do, they're going to basically take the original soundtrack, and I'm sure we're going to see like, we already heard, number one, in the first trailer, okay? Now you feel like number one, shining bright for everyone. We heard that, and that had like a little bit of a remix to it, maybe it was re-recorded by the artist or whatever. And in the trailer now, we get another soundtrack we heard before in Bleach. I'm blanking on the name of the soundtrack, but it's the same basic thing for that as like the fundamental like layer of it, and then it's like added on to more stuff on top of that to make it sound more epic. You could pretty much add choir music to anything, kind of like what they did in Hellverse. Just go listen to the soundtrack of Hellverse, and that's pretty much just like most of the soundtrack of Hellverse is like like we are going to hell. It's basically that kind of shit in Latin, but it's epic, and it works so well for Bleach, and the fact that the Quincy's are here makes sense for that as well. So yeah, the trailer, did not get to see it in person when it actually aired, but it was really cool when I watched it later, okay? So let me talk a little bit now about the interview that Kubo did. So he basically answers 5 questions about the upcoming anime. The first question is pretty simple. Can you give the fans a message about the Thousand-Year Blood War arc? And Kubo says, he's like, well, this is actually something that's very interesting that I don't usually think about, but it's something that, being a mangaka, that he would have to consider. And it's like, when he started writing the Thousand-Year Blood War arc, that was right around the time that the anime was confirmed to end. Okay, so they probably told him, like, hey, Kubo-sensei, this is the final arc in the manga, but the anime is going to be ending after the Fullbringer arc, okay? And so Kubo brings up that, like, up until that point, he sort of had to draw his manga in accordance with the restrictions from the anime. Because obviously he could not go as like bloody as he would want with it in the manga because there's no point. And he even mentions how that, a lot of times when he was drawing the manga, he was envisioning how that would look in the anime and the final product, okay? So that's something I didn't even consider before, that mangakas would do that, but I guess it makes sense, if Kubo just goes crazy with it, and he's drawing, and he's just like, okay, and then Yamamoto's gonna lose an arm, and then there's blood, and it just sprays all over the place like a damn fire hydrant. Okay, maybe I might not be able to do that in the anime, so let me just, dial that down a little bit. But then he mentions, since the anime ended and he was drawing the entirety of the Thousand-Year Blood War arc after this, he pretty much just went hog wild with it, to the point where he was even drawing it and he was even thinking, like, would this be a problem if it was animated? But, there was no guarantee the anime was going to come back at that point, so he just went with it, right? Some moments that kind of spring to mind is the moment in the fight between Sternritter S, the superstar Maste Masculine, and Rose and Kensei, where, what happens to Rose in that fight? Well, actually, no, they both do. They both get wrecked in that fight. Kensei gets his arm broken at like 3 different points, and there's like a compound fracture, and then Rose gets a hole, star-shaped hole, I guess it would just be a star-shaped attack right through his chest, okay? And so it's a pretty brutal fight, but there's a lot of really brutal fights throughout this arc, and so Kubo just kind of drew it, understood that, like, the anime's not coming back, so I'm just going to go crazy with it, and now it is coming back, so he was a little worried, like, is this going to be able to translate well into the anime? But I think we all know at this point, it was announced, in case you don't know, the Bleach anime is going to be airing at a much later block. I think it's going to be, like, around midnight in Japan when it airs, which means there's going to be a lot less censorship involved. So that's probably the best way to handle it, considering it is the final arc. It's the the Thousand-Year Blood War arc. Blood is literally in the title of the arc, so there's going to be a lot of gore. I think that's kind of understood. So I'm glad they were able to come to an agreement to get that on that time slot, so we don't have to worry about censorship. There's been a few bits of censorship in Bleach. Probably the ones that stand out to me the most were the one where Sato fought against Yami, when Yami and Yukiura first appear. Chad's arm pretty much just gets mangled to the point where it almost gets torn off of his body. That was dialed down significantly in the anime. And the other one that I remember is when Uryu fought against Ukiura and lost a hand. And in the anime, they didn't even have him lose a hand. They just kind of had his hand go limp, and it was like a little bit of burns, marks on it, a couple of bruises, and he's like, I'm okay. I administered anesthetic, I'm fine, and so, yeah, that was it. But, yeah, so hopefully there won't be any more of that. We know Kubo likes to cut off limbs of characters, specifically arms, but, yeah, I think we'll be okay with this new time slot. What's next? Favorite Bleach anime moments. This was them asking Kubo this, and he actually brings up an anime-only arc. I thought he was going to bring up, like, a specific moment that was animated. Like, I really like the way that the final clash between Ichigo and Byakuya was animated at the end of the Soul Society arc. No, he brings up an anime-only arc. He brings up a filler arc, the Invading Army arc, or the Reigai arc, as it is sometimes known. And he was like, you know what? Kubo even says, he's like, I'm not usually a huge fan of the filler arcs and stuff, but that one in particular was phenomenal. And it's been a long time since I saw the Reigai arc. I think I only watched it one time all the way through back when it first aired on Adult Swim. But out of all of the filler arcs, oh, by the way, while I'm on that subject, a couple of months ago, I went back and rewatched the whole Bount arc. I need to make another video about that. I did like a 6-part series on the Bount arc like years and years and years ago when the quality of the video was even worse than this, but I did do a series on it and it was pretty bad. But I watched it again and I do have some stuff I want to say about it. So I do want to go back to the Bount arc again. As a filler arc goes, it's one of the interesting ones in all anime that I've seen. But the Reigai arc was pretty solid, too. The Zanpakuto filler was alright. That one, the Kasumioji one, the second one they did with Shusuke Amagai, that one sucked. I hated that one. They were trying to do something where they were going to delve into, like, the whole feudal Japan aspect of the Soul Society, and I don't know, it just didn't work there. I liked it more when it was handled in the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels. I liked it more when it was handled there. They kind of go into like the royal houses and stuff. They tried to do that in the filler, and it didn't really work too well. But most of the Bleach fillers, I'd say, are fairly watchable. Some of them stretch on a little bit too long. The Bount arc, the Zanpakuto arc, the Sword Beast arc. We didn't need to have the Sword Beast arc tacked on the end of the Zanpakuto filler. We didn't need to have that at all, but okay, we did. So there's that. But yeah, so Kubo's favorite was the Invading Army, and that was a pretty cool arc, because it, we got to see a lot of matchups we wouldn't normally see. What fans should be looking out for from the Thousand-Year Blood War arc? Okay, so this is a cool one. The first thing is something I already kind of brought up. He brings up animation, design, using modern contemporary colors in the series. So he even says it's going to look very different from the original anime, which makes sense because, the original anime started airing in like 2004 or something, right? Way back then. And now the animation, of course, evolved over the years. But even from so if we watch like the last episode of the Bleach anime, after the Fullbringer arc, and then we cut to this episode, the new episode coming out in October, it's going to be very different. And you can see that. I mean, you can very clearly tell that from, the trailers we've seen so far. The animation is going to be very different. Just the animation on Ichigo when he goes into his Bankai and uses Getsuga, it's completely different in terms of just the way it's animated, but also the coloring and everything like that, which I think makes it more faithful to Kubo's original concept for like what the Getsuga Tensho was and everything like that, because in his Bankai it was always black with the red glow outline, and now I think it's purple, which is I think what it was always intended to be, but whatever. So yeah, that's understandable there. He also brings up, because it's the last arc and there was so many characters introduced, there's a lot of fight scenes that got shortened or cut altogether, and he hopes that those fight scenes will make it into the story. And this was something that was mentioned, I think, a while back, that was like, yeah, things are going to get added to it. I'll be honest with you, as soon as it was announced that this arc was going to be happening in the anime, finally, I'm like, it makes zero sense, absolutely zero sense, to animate exactly what was in the manga into the anime without changing anything. Because if you've read that last arc, like I did, week by week, you know that there were points that were like, this seems to just end on a weird point, or there seems to be way more involved here that was just never delved into, or the pacing really hurries up at this moment, you know what I mean? Like, there are moments in the story where you can tell stuff got shortened or cut altogether or sped up for various reasons. And, yeah, so I'm really happy that, like, Kubo just comes out and says, yeah, there will be more stuff battle scenes-wise in the anime. What's Kubo the most excited for in the Thousand-Year Blood War arc, and he says, this is epic, the Yuha versus Genryusai fight, so Yuha versus Yamamoto, where Yamamoto goes into his Bankai, Zanko no Tachi, and fights against Yuha. That, we already saw that a little bit in the trailer, just a few flashes of it with Yamamoto standing in front of a giant blazing inferno behind him, and yeah, so Kubo's really excited on that. Oh, unrelated, well, kind of related, but I also did see something that they are currently, like, right now animating the Everything But the Rain arc, the arc where Ichigo learns about his mom, and we get the flashback with Isshin and Ryukin and Katagiri and Masaki and everything. We get that flashback. That is, I think, what they're animating, like, right now, like, as I'm making this video. At least I saw somebody post about that, so it was probably true, right? But yeah, so on top of that, though, the Yuha versus Genryusai fight, which the only thing about that fight that I always kind of was not annoyed by, but I felt like there should have been more to it, is Yamamoto has those 4 stages of his Bankai, you know, Zanko no Tachi, East, West, South, and North. And we don't really get to see a lot of the moments with each of those abilities. He usually just jumps from one to the other. Like, he uses like one swipe with East and he immediately jumps to West, and he doesn't really do much with West, and then he summons the giant army of skeletons from the ground, and then they sort of grab Yuha, and then he just goes to North to finish him off. And I'm like, man, I wish we had a little bit more time to really understand the weight of each of these. Like, each of these moves, East, West, South, and North, have an ability to, like, destroy the world. You know, it's literally channeling the power of the sun in your blade, in, like, a blade, and then an armor, and then in, like, raising the dead, and then I guess North was just, like, a giant energy wave or whatever to, like, just incinerate whatever it comes in contact with. And it was just kind of like sped through it. Like, okay, we're going East and then West and then South and then North and then done. And it's like, I hope to see a little bit more of each of those moments and just, like, feel the breadth and the weight of how each of those were so powerful as the Captain Commander's Bankai, you know what I mean? So, absolutely. He also brings up that there was a fight with the Bambis that was cut, that he just says it was cut. The Bambis being I used to call them the Stern Ritter clique, you know, they were like the popular girls that all formed their little clique in the Stern Ritters. So that was Stern Ritter E, Bambietta Basterbine was like their leader, like the popular cheerleader or whatever. She was like the leader. And then there was Stern Ritter T, Candace Catnip, who has the Thunderbolt. She can control the electricity. And then there was Stern Ritter P, who's my favorite, Meninas McAllen, who's the power. And then there was Stern Ritter G, the glutton, Latato Lampert. And then there was Stern Ritter Z, Giselle Guel, who was the zombie, right? Okay. And so I guess there was like an extra fight, and there was sort of one. There was supposed to be a fight, I think, between Giselle, not Giselle. Giselle actually got some more of the screen time out of all of them, but Lil Tato and Meninas fight at one point that was off screen because Pepe uses the love powers on Meninas, and so it was mentioned that Latato had to fight her. And then there was another thing with Candace, I think completely got, you know, off screen or whatever. And then there was the fight between Latato and then, like, she devoured Pepe. And so that was, like, the whole point. But a lot of that was off screened. Oh, there was also the scene when Latato and Giselle show up to fight against Yuha. And Yuha just kind of gets out of his chair and just... and then just, like, kills them and sits back down. So maybe that was the fight he was talking about. I don't know. But, yeah, it would be cool to see more fights with the Bambis, especially Meninas, because she was my favorite. Are you involved in any animations? That was the last question. And Kubo basically says, I'm pretty much involved in, like, a little bit of everything here. He mentions how he doesn't like to get involved a lot in a lot of these, like, you know, animation projects. But with this one, he felt like it was necessary, you know, because this is, you know, the Bleach... Look, Kubo might do another series at some point, you know, because he's still relatively young and all that. I don't know. He has, like, the back problems and the shoulder problems and everything. But pretty sure Bleach is going to be the thing he's mainly known for. It's kind of like with Oda. Oda might do another manga after One Piece. I don't know if he would want to, but if he did, sure. But One Piece is going to be the thing he's always going to be remembered for. Bleach is going to be the thing that Kubo is going to be remembered for, right? I mean, it just is, right? So I feel like maybe he thinks, like, okay, this is the final arc of this, like my magnum opus, so to speak. I want to make sure I'm involved in this. So, you know, he is involved, but he also mentions like the director and the writer of the anime are also very big Bleach fans, and they know the characters and everything. So yeah, it mentioned he's sent notes and like references and things to them all about the story and how it's supposed to go and everything like that. So I feel like this is honestly being handled in the best possible way. And the reason I feel that is because I think this is something really just for the fans at this point. You know what I mean? Because Bleach, near the end of the manga, I mean, there was a reason why the anime got canceled. There was the reason the manga ended the way it did. I just don't think Bleach was really that popular at the time. Or it wasn't reaching the numbers that Shueisha and, like, you know, Toei, like, not Toei, but what was TV Tokyo? You know what I mean, though? It wasn't reaching the numbers or levels that it was supposed to, like, reach. And so it was like, yeah, let's just pull the plug on this. And it was very, very abundantly clear, though, from the fan base that was like, no, we want to see the last arc. We want to see this animated, you know what I mean? So I feel like they're putting a lot more care into this than they would in, like, another sort of series starting from scratch or whatever, because this is, like, finishing it off. So I'm excited. I'm really pumped for this. It's still just October 2022. They haven't given like an exact day yet. At least I don't think they have. But yeah, and just going, by the way, walking through Anime Expo and just being there, I saw so many people dressed in like Bleach cosplay and everything. I saw a really badass, Dangai Ichigo Bankai with the hollow mask on. It was so dope. So it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to have a lot more stories and stuff to talk to you guys about when it comes to like Anime Expo and everything. I just wanted to make this video now because it's weird that I haven't filmed anything in like 2 weeks. I mean, you've seen stuff, but I haven't filmed anything in forever, and that's weird to me because I feel like I'm not working. So here we are. But yeah, I have a lot more stuff to talk to you guys about. If you notice, my throat isn't like the best right now, and that's because I got sick from the con. So yeah, that's also the reason I wasn't going to be able to attend the Reverie this year. So sorry to Jay and everybody that was at the Reverie. It was a great one this year, but the day that the Reverie happened, Friday, I was up in Yosemite. We were staying at a little Airbnb there, and I woke up Friday morning and my throat was completely gone. Like it had checked out. It had just left. I fell out and just wandered away, and I just found it a little while ago. You know, I could not talk at all. So, yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, that's the video. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to edit this much, so you might just be seeing it. I think I did okay, considering it's my first video. I think I fumbled it like twice, but other than that, I think I'm just going to end it before we get into that. Oh, and jellyfish facts. I don't have the intro for jellyfish facts, nor did I look up a jellyfish fact. Oh, come on. What do I don't know. Barry's not here, but I have flowers. The people that, you know, have this Airbnb, which is very lovely, left out some flowers. So, yeah. I have tea. Not my regular tea. This is Arizona tea, so. Arizona tea fact. Dear God, that's a lot of sugar. But it's a great buy for only 99 cents. Okay, I'm going to get going now, but I hope you guys liked that video, whatever it was, and I'll be back home by the end of this week. Hopefully I'll make a video on Friday at my studio at my house, so look forward to that. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Signing out.